Mr. Tom Coleman. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I'm not going to ask you to tell us your story because it's out there on the internet. You're all over the place lately. You're on TV, radio. You're doing everything, so people can have a little look if they want to find out who you are and where you come from. I'm going to start off. You are known as the guy to go to for sleep, but that's too easy for you as a start off question. So I'm going to draw back a little bit, and if you would do me the honor of maybe explaining to me your outlook and overview on what health and wellness actually is, the building blocks for health and wellness, and what that looks like to you, in your opinion.
Really good question. Straight into it. So, look, it does start with our mindset on the whole thing, and where we are, where we find ourselves. You know, I've quoted this before, but you know, my dad said to me many years ago, "I'm not worried about the problem you have. I'm worried about the solution you're going to apply to that problem," you know, and that's the thing. We're living in a world of instant gratification, you know. We must learn to, I suppose, assess firstly and understand the nature of the problem and where we are, and we forget about the fundamentals. So the issues that I see now I kind of narrowed them down. It's taken me years to realize this. There's kind of three kind of areas, right? So the first one is the body. We are not using the body for what it's designed for. Absolutely. We are a million miles away from how we have been designed to live and how we have lived for thousands and tens of thousands of years. Okay, we're sitting down now. According to experts, we are not pooping right? We're not sitting right. We are not breathing right. We are not eating right. There's so much wrong with how we are using our bodies. And just take a look around. Take a look around, you know, and you will see that. Okay? We should be moving, pushing, pulling, fighting, struggling, being cold, being hot, looking for food, building shelter, lying down beside a fire, etc., etc. Our bodies, we're not using them correctly, right? The second thing is the signaling systems. We are completely overstimulated. We're stressed out of our minds. Between the nervous system and the hormonal system, they're completely out of sync, out of balance, and our minds are out of control. We seem to think it's a separate entity to us, and it's something that we've no control over. And the results of this imbalance in sleep, in health, in everything else. And where do you start? Well, you don't start, even though I've said mindset, you kind of think your way out of it. It's not a theory. The spiritual life or the healthy life is not theoretical, because you can be going with all the fads. You can even look amazing. Nowadays you can actually look incredible and be incredibly unhealthy as well. So let's get it straight here. The concept of health, where does that come from? The concept of health comes from the Greco-Roman model of David and the statues, those carved statues. So our perception of health is that. Now that could be extremely unhealthy for some people, that bodybuilding, the perfect body kind of.
The aesthetic, yeah.
You know, the aesthetic and the mental and the... So like we forget about the absolute basics of, if you're in doubt about anything, you know, move, get outside, do something, get moving, and start to actually feel alive, rather than theorizing, rather than looking on Instagram, rather than just like dedicating all your energy towards some kind of, you know, crazy imbalanced concept. And people who are successful in life, in business and everything else, they're able to modulate between a state of, I am alert, calm, focused, and efficient with my energy, and a state of, you know, deep calm and relaxation. They're able to turn it on and turn it off. And I use the example of like a tiger or a lion in it. Watch them. They're kind of lying around the place for most of the time, you know, playing, looking after themselves, chilled out. Look, when they're switched on, watch the difference.
Go time.
It's go time. And my God, can they talk about altered states? Like they can just flip that switch, boom. And they are absolutely razor focused, switched on when they need to hunt and they need to, procreate or whatever it is like. So like we've lost that in modern living now. We've lost that ability. So the fundamentals are keep it simple, move the body, get outside, eat real food, and look after your sleep. It's the pillars of health as they're known according to Harvard, not according to me. The 3 pillars of health: nutrition, exercise, food. But what comes before all of that is how we view these things. And you asked me, and that's how we view it. And today the world of health and wellness is chock full of stuff. I feel sorry for people trying to navigate it between nutritional supplements and all kinds of other practices that people are selling online or kind of promoting or whatever else. Like, don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah. Beautiful explanation, by the way.
Thank you.
As you're talking there, there's a constant a queue of questions lining up in my head here. But first of all, I'd like to say that I happen to agree with everything you've said there. I think the last part there was probably the most important. If I was to give some context with my journey, I started off as your typical addicted to biohacking, bro science kind of guy who wanted to do everything, all the supplements, all the techniques and things all the time. And as I sit in front of you right now, that's almost reversed. I still enjoy all that stuff, learning about it, but the building those pillars and that foundation for me and for most people is everything. It's everything, and all the other stuff is the cherry on top. It's the icing.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things you've said there I think are very important from a contextual point of view for listeners. First of all, you're dead right. There's too much information and it's everywhere and it's overwhelming. And there's this idea of mental masturbation that just we consume some of this information, therefore we feel good about consuming it. We don't actually do any of it.
Yeah.
And when I speak to people about this, they're like, yeah, you're right, but how am I, because like a lot of my friends would be accountants or and they're not in the health industry, mechanics. And they ask me, like, how am I supposed to be able to decipher between the million pieces of information I got today to tell me how to live a better life? I can't. And I'm in the industry, and so are you. And even then, it can be quite difficult and overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned at the start there how we should live and what's right for us and that we're living wrong. The pushback, and this is not my pushback because I agree with you.
Yeah.
But the pushback that you commonly hear around topics like that as well says we can't all go back and live like cavemen. The world has moved on. It's a different time now. We just have to adapt and we have to grow. I have my own kind of answer for that. But how do you, I suppose you probably get this conversation.
Yeah.
You probably get this question. How do you answer that for people who are clearly frustrated and are pushing back against, well, it's not as simple as just moving and eating and having a positive mindset?
Because of the way we exist and the world we live in and the demands that we have taken on board. And let's be honest about this, right? People don't want the cure, right? Too painful. They want relief.
Yeah.
Poor you. Oh yeah, your job is tough. And it is. It goddamn is, right? We know that. So the first thing I say, right, well, you have a choice. You just don't like your choices. I mean, you could quit the job. But maybe then you won't be able to have the nice car. You won't be able to buy the nice clothes. You won't be able to have the big house. So we'll take it a step back from that. Okay, so you keep the job. So let's dig into the detail of your day. So you don't have time to exercise. Most common excuse is no time, no energy. Let's just obliterate them. When people tell me they have no time for exercise, I say, let me see your phone.
Screen time.
Screen time.
Yeah.
How long have you spent on the screen?
Well.
Yeah, well, exactly. No time. We can do a 5-minute exercise routine now that will leave you gasping, and that's good for your body. So you do have time. The whole thing about energy is that you get it after, right? It's like fear.
Yeah.
You get the courage after you do the thing that makes you afraid. It's after. Think about it. You're terrified. You push through, and then after you're like, yes, well, then you get the courage, right? It's a bit unfair, but it's the same with exercise.
Yeah. Well, it's not courageous if there's no fear there. There's no bravery involved in doing the thing.
There's no bravery. What's the difference between bravery and courage?
What's the difference between bravery and courage? I did hear this before and I've completely forgotten.
It's really good. Bravado. The word bravado.
Okay.
Bravery is standing out onto the battlefield, but like courage is actually taking the actions and following it through.
Yeah.
And that's...
Bravery is posting it on Instagram.
Bravery's posting it on Instagram.
Courage is telling nobody and doing it.
Yeah. So look, the pushback is let me look at your life and I will dissect that for you and show you where you could be making a choice here instead of sitting on the couch scrolling for half an hour, because wind down is important. You time is important. All those things are important. So it's just having the discipline, like, and that is a tough thing. I've struggled with that all my life. Like having discipline. I don't have any discipline whatsoever. Like, and people say to me, like, "Oh, you're very busy and you're organized," and like, I am the most disorganized, undisciplined individual you've ever met.
Makes me very happy to hear that.
And I've been fighting this my whole life. I've been failing at exercise all my life, like, and that's why I'm in all right shape for my age or whatever else, and that's why so I don't allow people to get away with all those excuses, because that's what they are. Not that I'm a hardcore disciplinarian either. So look, I understand. Like, I've a very demanding life. Like, I've a little boy, love, gorgeous son, 5 years of age. I have to find time, and it's not just finding time for him. I have to be present.
Quality time.
It's here are the currencies that I speak about. Here's an indication of how you're leading your life: time, energy, and presence, and satisfaction. Those 4 things. Right? Do you feel like you have time? How are your energy levels? Are you present? Gabor Mate said the greatest gift we can give our children is presence. And I have to remind myself of that, because I'm with my son sometimes and I'm like, have to do this, have to, to cook, clean, have to check stuff. And then he's like, Daddy, and I'm like, I'm here. Not on my terms, on your terms.
Yeah.
If I'm doing those things right, then it's a win-win for everyone. It's amazing, So it's not a straight line journey. It's not a simple thing. It's something that we navigate, that we fail at, we try again, we fail at, we try again, we fail at, we try again. And we have to change the culture around failure.
Yeah.
As a society in Ireland, I believe.
Oh, big time. I'm a huge believer in that. Failure is part of the process. You should be embraced and accepted, because without failure, there's no growth. You mentioned discipline there. I have a really powerful, strong take myself on discipline. I think it's a word that challenges people and upsets people and triggers people, on me being people, because it does all those things to me. And I have found that rather than trying to rely on discipline, because I'm a horribly undisciplined person, but I've got good systems that I've now learned from people like yourself and people that I've come across in my industry. And those systems have helped me to lean on them rather than trying to lean on discipline. Yeah. And the best way it was ever explained to me was, if you start off your traditional January 1st workout for the year regimes, join the gym, fitness plan for the year, if you try to rely on your discipline to get you through that 12 months of training, 3 weeks in, it's going to be gone. You're not going to feel like it. The motivation is gone. You're not going to feel like doing it. So you're going to feel like a failure, and you're going to let yourself down. Whereas if you have systems there to support you, your environment, your family, your relationships, your friends, your coach, you're accountable. You've paid somebody to literally, what's going on today, Tom? You're coming in to do, you've held yourself accountable. That's a system that you can then rely on, that doesn't rely on you being disciplined. Yeah. And I've gotten the same thing as you before from people who maybe see the podcast or the business or football or whatever, and you're so disciplined. I say, I am really not. I've just learned strategies that kind of help me cover up the fact that I've no discipline in my life, whereas other people are quite naturally disciplined. Yeah. Some people are very measured, structured, disciplined, and it's not, I'm not that type of person. Me neither. I'm like the type of person is like, I have to be very careful around chaos. Yeah. I thrive in chaos. Yeah. I seek out chaos. I'm an agent of chaos, and that's where I love it, but that... Interesting coming from a guy who's associated with sleep. Yeah. I am the agent of chaos. I am an agent of chaos. I'm very creative. I'm a problem solver. I struggle with the monotony of the day-to-day stuff. That's what I struggle with. And exactly right. I need a system. I need accountability. I need to keep on track. I need to introduce ways to either overcome or discipline into my life in that way. Yeah. Because if I'm left to my own devices, that's where I'll burn out. Okay. Yeah. When you're working with people, individually, group basis, whatever, what are the biggest, because we've touched on a lot of kind of different areas where people can do better. What are the biggest areas, the most common, constant areas that you just see surfacing again and again and again, particularly in 2023, we're sitting here today, because it does change. Yeah. What are the big ones that you see all the time? The big one, some of the big things I see is stress, mismanaged stress. And it has such a profound effect on every aspect of your well-being. And that's like coupled with maybe a racing mind as well. I mean,
you can have a racing mind, you can have anxiety, and you can have stress, and they're three separate entities, but often there's a mixture of all three with people. And like you said it, like people don't even realize like how bad they are. And I've a lot of people come to me with sleep issues, and they're like, oh no, I'm I don't know, I just come up and I gradually I can't sleep, and then I ask them about their life, their day-to-day life, and then they start telling me, and I'm like, oh my God, like you've taken on a huge amount of responsibility. You're looking after this person, that person, the other person. You're trying to squeeze everything into the day. You're connected to your device. You're checking emails at 10, half 10 at night. You're, all of these things, and they don't really realize. And you will have found this as well. You don't realize how bad something is until you're actually backed away from it. You think, oh man.
Bit of perspective is powerful.
Yeah, perspective, So that's an absolutely huge one for me, is the stress, is the non-recognition of it and how it manifests over years. And you burn out these systems. You burn out these systems. And the other, I suppose, the other thing I recognize is the disconnectedness. That we're so connected online. And that, like, if you're sitting in your house now and the doorbell rings, what was that? Jesus Christ. Like, who rings the doorbell now? Like, who randomly pops over to your house now without telling you and just rings the doorbell and rocks up and goes, hey, what's happening? It's just not a thing. Like, it's either like the guy checking the electric meter or TV license man, or something like that.
Definitely someone to not answer the door to anyway.
Yeah. But connect with people. Like, I think that's huge. Like, the fastest way to take someone back from burnout, the fastest way is connection with another human being. That beats everything when it comes to burnout. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing I think I see is people not actually like using their bodies, people not actually like moving and exercising, and people trying to think their way out of their problems. There's something I say all the time, is you can't think your way into better living. You have to live your way into better thinking.
James, clip that. That's brilliant. Yeah. There's two things you said there. I remember probably about 5 years ago now. I'm not sure. Do you know the guys in the ISI, Irish Strength Institute, Owen Lacey, Robbie Bennett, the guys?
I've heard of them, yeah.
I was sitting with Robbie about 5 years ago, and he was listing out, I asked him a similar question, just we were having a casual conversation, and he deals with a lot of people who really struggle with health and wellness and all this kind of stuff. And he was listing out the common things he sees with people, like I've just asked you there. And he was talking about nutrition and training and sleep and all this kind of stuff. And he said, but the biggest one is the quality of their relationships. And he was like, it's one of the biggest predictors for me of a person's general state of health is what's their relationship like? Do they have a romantic relationship? What are their friends like? What are their colleagues like? And what are the quality of those relationships like?
Yeah.
And people really struggle to talk about it because they don't ever think about it.
Yeah.
But once you can get people to improve the quality of those relationships, almost every other metric improves without any interventions in the other metrics.
Isn't that amazing?
Which is insane, because think of the potential you have there to improve your life and your health and your state of mind just by, as you said, doing that one thing, improve the quality of relationships. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't overuse the phrase, we have an epidemic of loneliness at the moment, but we're disconnected, like you said. We're hyper-connected, but we're actually disconnected from each other and from ourselves. Yeah, which is madness. Do you notice a difference between your standard gen pop average person and your high performer then in those areas, in those zones? Do they, because you mentioned earlier on successful people show certain trends. When you're dealing with, say, high performance athletes versus whatever the average person is, but the average person who's not a high performance person, do you see differences in how they present?
Yeah, I mean, like your high performance person, it's they have to be very strict with their, almost like their mind space. Like you think about it. So like someone like, say, Conor McGregor that we were talking about. So like obviously, like people don't maybe understand how hard it is to get in front of him for 2 seconds.
Yeah. You've worked with Conor.
I've worked with Conor, yeah. And like other people, so there's a huge demand on those people. Like people in high performance, whether it be sport or work or whatever else, their time and energy is so valuable to them. And they use those currencies so wisely. But we don't. Just like lollygag around, scrolling on social media, we don't. So we're not we haven't got the capacity maybe, or we haven't built up enough pain, knowledge, experience, whatever we need to bring us along the journey to realize that, and nobody's, like, all of these guys have flaws and faults, and they've had their journeys. Some people get lucky and, soar up high or whatever else. Some people are born, this is what I noticed, some people are born that way. They were just always that way, maybe very disciplined, maybe very, systems driven and everything else. But like the commonality and the emerging, what I see emerging now is personal health. I see people who have been very successful in the business world, and I know them, I've worked with them, I've done workshops with them. And some of them have been hyper successful, and it's had an impact on their physical health. And now there's a shift now towards, actually, you know what, they're realizing now that my physical health, if I am physically healthy, my mental well-being will be, much healthier. And every aspect of my health, my decision making and all that. Some of them have realized that. But we give away our time, we give away our energy, we give away, we kind of waste these things where we'd be much, much better off in learning how to, I suppose, harness them for better things. And we neglect, like, our relationships. You said it. We neglect the relationships. We deny problems. We think it'll be all right. It's not having that much of an impact. I'm grand. We use the word balance, which I don't.
Your favorite word?
My favorite word, balance. People use that word a lot. Sometimes to achieve certain things, we need to be completely out of balance. Like, sometimes my life is completely out of balance, but I recognize that. I recognize it. I might have to work for 10 days in a row, or then I get 3 days off midweek and I can just, like, do whatever I want. But that's what I notice. And the mind will defend itself. Your current situation. See, we don't like change. We have a dedicated area of our brain in the hypothalamus. That's its sole function is to bring us back to homeostasis, right? No matter what environment we put it through. So we don't like when we get outside of that. So we're actually hardwired to be in the comfort zone, And when we feel uncomfortable with things, we don't like that. We pull back. Oh, we don't like the cold.
Survival instinct, is it?
It is. It's like when it's hardwired to that degree in the brain, it's designed to protect us ultimately. But people are all about their feelings now. And that's another difference, right?
Yeah.
And that's gone to a hyper level, I believe. Like, I don't like you hurt my feelings, and you hurt, or I don't feel this, or I don't like this. Oof. Is that serving you? Is that getting you to where you want to go? Yeah. Sometimes we have to go completely against our feelings, and we have to push through. But, like, we have to, become comfortable in discomfort. Yeah. To achieve. And that's where you're pushing outside of normal balance or whatever else to get your goals. I hope that makes sense. It certainly makes sense to me. It's taken me a long time to learn these things.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. And I'll give context, because sometimes I find when I'm having these conversations, I am on a similar level or wavelength to what you're saying, but I'm aware that maybe people listening, they're viewing this through their own lens or listening through their own ears and their own experience, so they might hear that a slightly different way. So I'm not gonna try and verify anything you've said there. I agree with it, but for me, for context for what you've just said there, we do live in a world today where we're seeking perfect balance and harmony and peace of mind, but also want all of the rewards of doing difficult things, and we want that and believe we deserve that at the same time. And you made a very, very good point there about if you want to achieve a certain thing, there are certain requirements for that thing. It's not to say you have to achieve that thing. You've mentioned the word success a few times today here now. And for me, success is a very, very subjective thing. So someone who makes 10 million euro but has no relationship with a son, for me, is not a success in my eyes, because I want a relationship with my son. I'd also like 10 million euro now. But for me, the biggest success is what you said earlier on, is presence with my child and a connection with my child.
Correct.
That's a personal thing for me. Yeah. However, if someone out there wants 10 million euros and that's what's important to you, there's a different set of plays that you have to play to achieve the 10 million euro. Yeah. So success is subjective. Where I see it as a big problem is most people, myself included, don't really understand what success is for them individually. So they've no idea how to get there. So what we do then is we go on and we listen to what Instagram tells us success is, or the news, or our parents, which can be a problem as well, or society tells us success is driving the latest car with the biggest house, with the longest driveway, and rising above the crowd. That's success.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you've experienced, as I've experienced, not personally with that lifestyle, but working with people like that, in many, I would say most cases, that's not actually the form of success that most of us want. So until we can kind of identify for ourselves what success looks like, we're completely guessing. Like, what do I do? I'll just do what these books tell me to do because they say that's what's making me successful. But what do you want to be? A bodybuilder, a long distance runner, a super successful millionaire, a good father, like a bricklayer who lays the best bricks in the country? Like, what is it that you want? And then you can start to define success. I find that's where the disconnect is. So if you're listening to what you just said with that mindset, you're like, okay, Tom is dead right. I am too concerned about my feelings because I want this thing. But if you don't know what success looks like, you listen to Tom and you say, it's being a bit fucking harsh there, is he?
Yeah. Oh, well, it's my job.
yeah.
No, I mean, like, and look, I have compassion. I understand. I understand suffering because I've been there myself. But, you know, like, and I think tragically, and it is a tragedy that people sometimes find themselves in their, you know, mid to late 30s, early 40s in a job where they're completely trapped. They feel completely, because like, this was supposed to give me success. And they might have a car and a house and might be married or might have kids, but they're deeply unhappy with their life. And then what do? They can't, like, I can't stop now. I'm on this conveyor belt. And I talk about that conveyor belt all the time. So I think, you know, it is defining success is, and I've had to navigate that myself. You know, I mean, I posted something on LinkedIn recently, right? So I do a lot of work in the corporate sector. I went on LinkedIn and I seen these posts from people. And that's like, oh my God, I thought this person, like in 1 week, like they got their masters, they qualified as this, they done that, they ran a marathon. I was looking at this going, oh my God, this is like hyper achievement. I just felt useless. Like I just felt
that's my question. Do you feel immediately you feel a less than?
But that's it. I looked at LinkedIn and I looked at this one post. Oh my God, like, that's incredible. And the next post was someone, you know, doing something. The next, and I thought, and then I watched myself. You see, and that's the great thing about being old. That's the great thing about not being like 25 or whatever. No offense.
28 man is old. You know?
No offense to the 25-year-old. I still think I am, by the way. Anyway, is that I recognize that within myself. I watch myself go.
Bit of self-awareness.
Yeah. And then I realized, I thought, what did I do? And I thought, you know what? I just had the best weekend with my son ever, where we were down at the beach, the weather was good. I bought him surfing for the first time.
Oh, brilliant.
And he chased me around with buckets of water, and the joy in that lad's face. And like, I took pictures of it, right? And I thought, I'm going to post about this. So I posted about it. I said, I came on here, I felt completely intimidated. I said, the source of my greatest pride in my life will always be my son. Like, no matter what I have achieved or will ever achieve, looking at him as a father, that will always be my greatest source of pride. So for those people who struggle, for those people who feel like they're not successful, for those people, like, you know, don't forget the why. Don't forget the why. Don't forget to go and hug the person that you love, or to say something, or to have that bit of presence. You know, because that is, I know now that is more important for me than anything else. And yeah, look, we'd all like to have the millions and stuff like that, but like, it takes time sometimes. Like, you know that thing when they say to kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And when I'm around kids, that I go, well, I still don't know what I want to be, you know, because like, what I do is not who I am.
Yeah.
If what I do is who I am, who am I when I'm not doing it?
Yeah. I really piss people off when they ask me that question of what do you want to be? It's like, at peace, connected, happy, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, but what you want to do? It's like, I want to do whatever I enjoy doing. Like, I want to be around the people I want to be around and do the things I enjoy doing. And that's not rigid. And like, if anyone knows my backstory, definitely hasn't been rigid.
Yeah.
I haven't followed a linear path at all, but I'm finding things, like we are doing one of the things I enjoy right now, sitting having conversations with people that I meet who have great value to offer, brings me great joy, it brings me great peace, and it allows me to help other people. That's what I want to do. And if that ever changes, I'll do something else.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the right way to do anything. That's not career advice, by the way. Don't do what I do. That's career advice. But I think not putting ourselves in boxes and pigeonholes is very healthy, but it's very counterintuitive in today's world because you have to put yourself, you literally have to write in your Instagram bio what you do and who you are.
Yeah.
You have to pigeonhole yourself. And there's a competitive disadvantage to not niching down, if you want to follow the language that we use nowadays. But like, who gives a fuck really if you're unhappy? Like you said, most of us have decisions to make. They might not be easy, they might not be comfortable.
Yeah.
But we have decisions to make.
We have decisions to make. And I know a lot of what people would view as successful people, right? And they would love nothing more than to drop everything and go on a building site. Like you said, the bricklayer, doing bricks, or go and go to Lidl, get a job in the checkout.
Yes.
They would love nothing more than that, right?
Yeah.
But they can't. The masquerade and everything else is part of who they are and their identity and everything else now, and it's too far along the path. So like, I hope people will kind of have enough courage to kind of set out on a path. And it's not all, you mentioned it there, you alluded to it, like it's the journey.
Yeah.
It's not like you might start off with the destination or placing your happiness at the days. No.
Yeah.
Find joy in the day-to-day stuff, and that's like hopefully what I do every day. It's like,
you've probably heard the old story of the Mexican fisherman. Have you heard that one?
No.
I'll absolutely butcher this now, but I'll give you the bullet point takeaways. Mexican fisherman spends his days going out on his one little boat with his fishing rod, catching the fish, bringing them home, and then he goes for a nap, cooks the fish, sits with his wife, chills out, and that's his day. Big, wealthy, tourist American businessman comes along, sees him doing this, and goes, "You know what you could do? You could make a lot more money. You could make this way, way bigger." And the Mexican guy goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, you could catch 2 fish in a day, then use those fish to finance getting a second boat, get 2 boats out, then get 5 boats out, and then in 5 years' time you could have a fleet of boats and you could be making this much money." And then the Mexican fisherman goes, "Well, like, why would I want to do all this?" He goes, "Well, eventually you'll earn enough money and have enough boats out and enough people working for you that you'll be able to spend your days fishing and relaxing." And he's like, "I do that right now." And it's just kind of like, what am I going to do this whole big rigmarole for? Like, what am I actually chasing here? Because I haven't reached massive financial success or a massive success in the traditional terms, but I'm extremely happy and content with my day to day. And I can't speak to what that is like, but I speak to many people, as do you, who are hyper successful from a traditional standpoint. Got the money, got the cars, got the house, got the business, got all that kind of stuff. I would say 90% of them, not all of them, because some people love that. 90% of them say what you've just said there. They're not happy. They're not fulfilled.
Yeah.
They've missed out on massive, important milestones in their lives or their families' lives because they've been focused on this goal that they get to and realize it wasn't it. How did I get here? Like, it looks great. Everyone thinks I'm an animal. I have no relationships. I have no connections. I have no peace. I have no idea who I am. But I am this super successful, insert word here, like athlete or CEO, whatever it is. And it's actually quite sad. And it's a lesson for me to take away from. Yeah. And I would say most people listening to this podcast are not at that level of super success. So it has really helped me hearing conversations like this, because it just even if it's only 2 seconds where I go, do I want millions of euro? Do I want a massive business with 50 employees? And probably not, actually.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just a different set. Look, you don't solve any of your problems. You swap them. You don't solve them. And we think, oh, when I get this, and I'll be happy. Yeah. Another problem arises, and that's the way it is. We just swap it out, like.
Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned another very interesting thing there that I heard a while ago as well, in terms of you can't think your way out of these problems.
We theorize.
Yeah.
We theorize about things. We think that, if we spend long enough recycling this in my head,
I'll figure it out.
So I'll figure it out. Like, we have to action our way out.
What's your go-to when Tom is having some head problems, like he's in his head and he's over? What do you go to in terms of an action?
Well, I suppose, look, that can manifest, and it's kind of, there's a few things I do. Survive it.
Survive the onslaught.
Survive the onslaught. Realize that like, okay, it might seem like that now, but it's going to pass.
Yeah. This too shall
When
pass.
when you're in the black hole, you think this is reality.
Yeah.
The other stuff was just an illusion.
Yeah.
And then when you're out of the black hole and everything's so you think, oh no, this is reality. The black hole was just the illusion.
Yeah.
But actually both are true, right? So kind of think, I just think pull it back to the day. That's always a good one. Because sometimes the pressure we put on ourselves and the possibilities of this will happen and that will happen and I'd say this and then she'd say that and then this will happen and then worst case scenario is I lose the house and the car and the relationship and da-da-da-da.
Catastrophize, yeah.
We can do that, but it's like pull it back into the day. And my go-to is generally connection with nature, exercise.
Okay. That's
usually my go-to. Connection is good because I find that it dissipates. It dissipates the negative thinking, the darkness, that kind of stuff. If I can't do anything else, at least I can get out and go for a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
Go for a jog. Do something physical, and then maybe meet a person or two people or stuff like that. And like action on the thing. If there's something that's like really getting to you, and you need to do something and you haven't done it, and you're procrastinating or something, like action on that thing. It's or ringing that person or contacting that company or facing up to the thing. That is absolutely, watch how that will just allay all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What you're saying is very simple, but is it outrageously powerful? I'm going to ask you, would you mind, because James is going to kill me if I don't ask you, can I slide you slightly back that direction there? Perfect. Yeah, he's shouting at me from behind the curtain there. What you described there is so simple that most of us don't think it could be the solution to the scale of the problem that's in our head right now.
100%.
But man, it has transformed my life. What you just said, that has completely transformed my life. In terms of just acknowledging that the opportunity cost for me of spending the next 2 or 3 hours thinking about this problem versus if I go for a 5-minute walk around the block and come back and sit back down with a completely just a refreshed mindset on it, because I've been out and I've looked at a few trees and I've sniffed the air and heard a bird singing, and I come back in here, it's actually outrageous. It's like the best hack I've ever heard of in my life, and all it involves me doing is just having a point where I go, nope, stop that thinking, get up, go for a little walk. And I might still feel the emotions and stuff, but by the time I get in, it has just changed me somehow.
Yeah. And your mind will tell you it's useless. Here's the mad thing, right? Your mind will tell you, it's stupid.
How could that work?
Your mind will defend itself.
Yeah.
It's like getting into a hot bath. This feels lovely. Like negative emotion is like getting into a hot bath. It won't. It likes it. Yeah. It likes to kind of stay there and pour me or keeps bringing back up the same stuff. And you go to challenge that by saying, "I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to change this mindset." That's not going to work. That's stupid. That's So watch that, but just do it anyway, despite the thinking. And that's despite the emotion, despite the thinking. That's a spiritual thing because you're rising above those things and you're actually taking action on something. And you go, "Wow. I never would have thought it would have had that much of an effect."
Yeah. Along that same theme, why? Why do you believe, everything we've just spoke about for the last 30 or 40 minutes there, why do you think that most of us struggle with this stuff now, particularly? Like, I have my own, I actually won't give you my thoughts on it. I'll get your thoughts first and I'll compliment your thoughts. But if you just step back and, everyone's, not everyone, it's not correct to say, a lot of us are making the wrong decisions. A lot of us are taking the wrong path. A lot of us are, despite the fact that we have Tom Coleman coming on and talking about this idea of success being relative and this mightn't be the answer, you should figure out your own goals. Why do most of us ignore that advice? 99% of us still ignore that advice. Why do you believe that is?
There are a few factors.
I see you smiling, so I know there's something juicy in there.
Like we mentioned one of them earlier on, like feelings, It's like, feels good, man. That's why I do it. It feels good, It feels good to sit in the couch all cuddled up, scrolling on the phone. It feels good to shove pizza down your neck and have Häagen-Dazs ice cream and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The whole of our society is set up that way. Like, here's the other thing: is that we are, the things that we consume have been designed to be absolutely highly addictive. And we don't like when we have to give up some of that kind of stuff. Like I worked in nutrition for years. And I know sugar, fat, salt, the magic 3. Get that combination right. You've got someone who you've created an addict. neuroscientists have been paid hundreds of millions to make your phone highly addictive. Dopamine. It's the most powerful neural reward pathway in human evolution.
But why, Tom? Surely that they want the best for us in these big companies. No?
Your time, your time. Like the CEO of Netflix was asked, like, who's your big competition? He said sleep.
Yeah.
And then he had to apologize and retract that statement.
Did he?
Yes, he did. So your time, what was that line again? Like if you don't know what the product is, you are the product.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're living in a world where it's more difficult than ever to break out of that. Due to look at the things we consume, look at how our time is taken up, look at the kind of standards that we kind of set ourselves now in terms of even success, or defining what society is telling us what success is. I hope at some point there'll be a breakout to go, no, success now is me working 3 days a week or 2 days a week, doing something I actually don't mind doing, and having enough time to spend with my family, and sitting outside tending the garden or doing whatever, I think it's incredibly hard for people. And I think social media has acted as an accelerant to that. It's holding them in that kind of area where they're not going to maybe actually action themselves in their lives, because they're doing the comparison thing. It's like the whole thing with kids in school now and being bullied or stuff like that, where it follows them home with the social media. It's like these things have latched onto us, and the reason they are so powerful is because they're tapping into the most powerful reward pathway in human evolution. The same thing that drives you for sex, money, food, security, all that stuff. That's dopamine. It's not like when you take cocaine, it's the cocaine. No, it gives you a huge hit of dopamine. Yeah. The coffee, huge, 150% of standard levels and stuff. So that's just hard to fight against, And then we're living in a society now where you can't say anything. Someone is offended, and it's gone to an extreme. Like in Ireland, right? Trauma is passed on through what is not said. Didn't understand that, but I do now. Right?
Go on, break it down for us.
So it's like the best thing is to say nothing.
Okay.
If we looked at generations and decades, like, don't say anything. Don't express your feeling. Don't tell us how you really are. How are you? Fine, great, yeah,
grand,
yeah. Everything's great. Yeah, we don't know, who's living next door to us anymore. We don't know anything about each other. We're not connected physically anymore. It's just like this thing of don't say anything, and everything is pushed down to the state now where if you say something, it will offend somebody. Basically, like I think it was Jordan Peterson said that in order to think, you have to speak, and you're going to offend someone. So and that's where I don't really care. Like people say I could be hardcore with my opinions, and I'm delighted to be here talking about them, because it's not often I get to actually express myself truly in these ways. So yeah, it's a tough landscape. People who are, I think Joe Rogan said as well, people who are animals now will be they can define their own success, whether that be working 2 days a week or having 10 million,
Yeah, I think to your point about your opinion and saying things and people not liking it and cancel culture, my filter for all of this stuff is intent. It's why we're having the conversation right now. If your intent is to hurt somebody and to say something to demean somebody, that's probably not great. Yeah. And then maybe we should have a word with you about the language you're using or the things that you're saying, maybe. But if your intent is to help people, like I don't know you that well, Tom, but we've had conversation and we've had some back and forth, and we're doing a podcast, and James has a lot of respect for you and a lot of time for you. So there's filters there for me that I know Tom wants to help people. He's out here teaching people about their wellness and their health and how to empower themselves. And I fucking love that giving the information to me so I can make change in my life. Yeah. So your intent is good. So if you say something that challenges me, I'm not going to turn around to you and say, you're a piece of shit, because that challenges some of my foundational beliefs. Yeah. I'm going to say, well, look, Tom is saying this. I'm triggered by it. But he's saying it from a place of compassion. He wants to help me. So maybe I should have a little look inside and see why that's triggering me so fucking much. You know what I mean?
Like, I love it. It is about the intent. And the problem with today, I'm a health scientist, right? Yeah. The problem with scientists and the problem with science and the problem with everyone is they want to be right. They don't want to be wrong. you ask for my opinion on something. It's nothing. Like, I'm not even allowed to give my opinion if I'm being strict and say, well, here's where the evidence suggests, and here's what I think about it.
It's funny that the dance of words you have to do.
Yeah. That's the way it is. But like, my intent, like, one of the reasons I got into what I do is because my dad dropped dead at 62. And it was preventable.
Wow. Okay.
So, like, I worked as a hospital assistant in cardiac care, CCU, for a year and a half. So I've wiped people's arses. I've shaved people. I've done that type of work. I've watched real suffering, and I've experienced it personally through my own journey in life. I have also. So, like, here's the thing. You don't need to buy the pill, the powder, the quick fix. Like, I'm about giving people the stuff for them. Like, see, here's another. We've spoken a lot about words like success and balance and what that means and stuff. Well, here's another one that we can kind of add into that list. I suppose. 1 second, I've lost it. Where's it gone? What was I want to talk about there now? What's the word? James, I'll have to edit this bit out, right?
Give me some context and I might help you. We edit nothing out of this podcast, by the way.
Okay, let me dig it out of my old brain there. No, you talk about. Oh yes, okay, here we go.
We got it.
Yeah. So people talk about these things a lot. Compassion.
Okay.
Right. So compassion is always seen as this soft thing of saying, it's okay, I understand, you'll be fine. Compassion. Think about a drug addict. A heroin addict. Are you just going to go, oh, that's okay, you're going to be fine, it's okay? No, you're not. You're going to go, listen, you're going into that rehab, right? Well, but I don't want to do that. No, I'm going, you don't. You're going to, that's compassion. Compassion can be going, no, you're getting out of my house now, to your own family. Going, I'm kicking you out of the house now. That can be compassion, because if that, if that doesn't happen, maybe you will die, right? So we kind of, we misinterpret anything, and we can't say that to offend anybody. We can't give anyone advice that might upset them. We can't. No, here's the dose of reality. Like, the definition of the word spirituality is living in reality with the help of a higher spirit, having some kind of belief that.
Okay.
Yeah. So right, I'm gone spiritual now.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
We've gone through the gears, and we're at the spiritual level now. But it's living in reality.
Yeah.
So sometimes people need a dose of reality about their life. If you continue doing that, you'll die. And it might offend you, me saying that, but like, get checked. Do the exercise. Stop shoving that food in. It's killing you.
Yeah.
Because I care about you.
Yeah.
And like, that's why I will say to people when they ask me stuff, that's why sometimes I will say things to people that they might not like or think, well, that was a bit like whatever,
You've used two very small words there that I think they've made everything that you've said in the last 2 minutes there really, really relevant. You said can be compassion, and sometimes I say these things because it depends.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that people, when they listen to the sleep podcast or the health podcast, they're looking for the silver bullet that works for every single person that I can do right now. But everything is what I learned in the health industry. The biggest lesson I took away from me in physio, health, sports, medicine, functional medicine, whatever, it depends. Who is the person sitting in front of you? And you said can be compassionate, because sometimes people do need that hard love, and sometimes they don't. So that's true compassion, understanding that right now in this situation, this is what this person needs from me. They need a hard line.
Yeah.
But right now in this situation, this person needs a little bit of care and a little bit of tenderness. I actually first saw this in my football team, because you're dealing with a group of 30 men, and they're all different.
Yeah.
And I would get managers in who would have like a disciplinarian approach. And I was like, you are going to lose half the squad if you employ this. Yeah. And I do believe they need discipline, but it's a different type of discipline. They need help with their discipline. Whereas these guys need a kick in the ass because they're just lazy bollockses. Yeah. So it completely depends. And sometimes it's the right approach and sometimes it's not. So I think that is so important. Yeah. But it's those nuances that people may listen to you and say, well, he said the thing I don't agree with, so fuck him. Not going to take that on board. Not going to take that on board.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting what arouses things in us that can we not question that, as opposed to latching on to?
It's in me. I've learned this the hard way, and it was Pat Divilly again showed me this. He was the simple little thing he did on one of the podcasts we did a while ago. He's like, when you're pointing a finger at somebody else, there's 3 fingers pointed back at you.
Yeah.
And at the start, I was like, I don't really get that. And I was like, now thinking about it, it's like every time I have a problem, not every time, most times I have a problem with someone, if I spend 10 seconds thinking, I was like, I actually don't have a problem with them. I just have a problem. I have a problem inside me.
Yeah. What does it threaten within me?
It challenges something about me. Is it my masculinity or my ego, or what is it that? But it's usually my fault.
Yeah.
It's usually me that needs to deal with this stuff. So it's interesting. You spoke about the why and the state of the nation, the state of affairs at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you think that this, because it's not going to come from top down, we're not going to get the companies to change. And like, this is an interesting conversation for me as well, because if I ran a company with all of these different employees and my responsibility was to my shareholders, there's an incentive there for me to do what's best for the shareholders and best for the company that makes the most money, make the most addictive technology, and then give it to you and you can do what you want with it. I acknowledge in my head, it's in some point I know it's not good for you. Mm-hmm. But that's your responsibility. It's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to the shareholder. So they're never going to change, I don't believe, personally. We're never going to change that structure.
Yeah.
But have you seen, with the birth of podcasts, and you do a lot of speaking, you're in the corporate world, you're in the individual world, you're in the private world, have you seen a change or a movement or a momentum from the bottom up with people taking control themselves? Or do myself and yourself, and this might be hard to answer, do we exist in a bubble because we're just meeting each other talking about this stuff and we all think it's great and we all think the world is changing?
Yeah.
Have you seen that change? Have you seen the movement from the bottom up with people saying, do you know what, I'm going to take this information Tom's given me and I'm going to fucking make sure my sister does it, my brother does it, my dad does it, and we're going to change, and we're going to change our little pocket of the world here.
Yeah.
And then you might have multiple pockets all starting some level of change.
Yeah. I mean, what I've seen is, I've seen a surge in anxiety. I've seen a surge in burnout. I've seen a surge in these things.
Okay.
I've seen workplace wellness change over the last, like, as long as I've been involved in it. Like, I got dragged into the corporate sector about 8 years ago. And I'm heavily involved in it now for years and years and years, you know. It is interesting. It is interesting to watch. You talk about, like, you know, if we talk about, like, first the companies. So companies have really recognized the value in looking after their employees, like truly listening to them and trying to respond to that by really investing in health and wellness programs. Because the ROI is you know, the bottom line is there. Like, if you, for every dollar you invest, you save $3. So it actually should be coming back. You know, they do kind of invest, and I can see you smiling.
I know, you know, I'm smiling as well.
Right. However,
there it is.
However, you know, they can just often tick the box. Let's do another Gallup survey where we test engagement and see what it's like. And if the numbers aren't good, we get another 5 speakers in to talk about stress, and we get like an influencer and a celebrity, and what's on topic at the moment. We put someone in there, and I see that, and it's just like, no, that's not the way. Like, it kind of galls me, you know, to see this, and I see this every day with companies. They'll find out what's on topic, what's on trend, right? Get that person in there, or get you know, a celebrity or an influencer, come in and meet the employees, and those boxes are all ticked, you know. On the flip side of that, if we look at the employees, you're not even allowed to call them employees in some companies.
Oh,
yeah.
Are they fuzzy friends? They're
you're not even allowed.
Family, what do you call them?
Like, see, what you have to realize is that, like, the minute you drive in the gate, Everton is kind of controlled or whatever, right? They're not employees, they're operatives, or they're whatever they are. I don't know. Yeah. Like, I, you know, it's just something that kind of scares the bejesus out of me. But that's my issue. Like, yes, you know, conformity, or, you know, doing a 9-to-5 job, not for me, right? You know, and there's great value in it. I have great respect for people. I really do, honestly. Some people within the setting, because it is a setting. We have the school setting for health. We have, you know, the workplace setting. We have the home setting. We've, you know, different settings. And some people take it on board and get great value out of wellness in the workplace. Other people just have no heed. They just completely shut down from the whole thing and cross their arms and couldn't care less from it. But I believe that, you know, like, if we look at, say, shift workers as an example, right? Our society is built on the back of shift workers. Our society is built on the back of the health of our shift workers. That's the reality of it. If you mention shift workers to most people, they don't have a clue what you're talking about. They won't understand that statement. You know, I mean, if you go into a hospital setting, every single piece of equipment in there has been built by a shift worker. Every health professional that works there is a shift worker. Nurses, doctors, anaesthetists, surgeons, all of those people, right? Everything in there, in that setting, is shift work. We take for granted that we have a relatively stable, some might argue, safe streets or whatever else. We don't have turmoil or, crime isn't crazy. That's all the police force. So you look at like the roads, our streets are clean, the rubbish is picked up. You're able to go into your local super value Centra, whatever, get your cup of coffee, get your food in the morning. Why is that? Because some guy has got up and started work at 11 o'clock at night when you're going to bed and driven a truck for hours to deliver that food. The people who get up to make your croissant at 4 o'clock in the morning to make sure it's hot and fresh in the shop. Like, I can continue. Hotels, service industries. There's a huge amount of people there who are not sleeping at night, who are getting up to work and ultimately sacrificing their health so that you can have convenience in your life that you demand, that I'm entitled to it. I want a good health service. I want my fresh coffee in the morning. We're bloody entitled, aren't we? But that's off the back of someone's health, let me tell you. Someone is sacrificing that so that you can have your convenience. So I think that, things have to evolve a bit more in the world of workplace health and wellness. They've come a long way. They've done a lot of good work. But people have to start implementing, I suppose, looking at it, more holistically and over the course of 12 months and 2 years and 5 years and things like that. And really, I believe if they truly invest more in that, it's only going to be better for the bottom line and the employee.
Yeah, well said. I want to give a bit of I want to take off my optimal health blinkers here for a second, I suppose, because again, a lot of these podcasts sometimes can be all about this is what we should do to be the most perfect human you could possibly be. In the grand scheme of things, I know we're talking about the corporate world there, it's not for me, it's not for you. If you look over decades, centuries, millennia, whatever you want to look at, this is the best time to be alive. The fact that you can go into one of these big companies and you can be in a warm, air-conditioned, heated office and have coffee on the desk and food brought to you, and your job involves literally moving your fingers to type on this keypad that makes work so when that's your work. You're not doing physical, not most of us anyway, doing physical labor in a mine under horrible conditions, and your chances of death aren't 80% based off the work that you do, and you're not out trying to hunt wild animals to feed your family and stuff like that. In the context of that, we're doing a cracking job. So let's not all worry too much about that. However, I think where some of my issue and a lot of people's issue lie with this is something that you alluded to there, that a lot of the wellness that we are purporting to bring into these corporate environments is, number one, a box-ticking exercise, let's be honest. But number two, it's not necessarily there to motivate a healthier population. It's there to motivate a bottom line. You invest one, you get three. Healthier workers, less sick days is what most people will talk about at the corporate level. Whereas we talk about, it's amazing because I've got a therapist on site and I can go and talk to her and I can get my hair done and massage. They don't want you to leave the place, man. That's why all these things are there. They're getting a bigger return out of you. If you're not sick, you're going to be happier working for them. That's my personal problem. Not saying that should be a problem. A lot of people I know are very happy working their corporate jobs and they've got stability and that's amazing. So big picture, net positive. We don't have to go out and work the fields. Most of us can get jobs in offices and be comfortable. It's just not in alignment with what I want for my life. So context from when people listening to me, sometimes I sound like I'm bashing. Most people listening here have a 9-to-5 job. I don't. And my life is fraught with insecurity and uncertainty and I don't do what I fucking do. But having said all of that, if I want to live a happier, healthier life, and most of the people, I've said there are some people I know who are really happy with their 9-to-5s. Most people I've met are not. That's just personal experience from talking to people. Most people are not. So if you want to feel better, if you want to have a more fulfilled life, these are some of the things you can do. You can't just trust in the fact that your boss or your company has your best interests at heart, that the companies who make the technology and the food have your best interest at heart. I'm not saying everybody's out to get you, everybody's evil. I'm just saying if you want to run a marathon, you have to train like this. If you want to have a healthy, happy, content, peaceful life, there are other things you might have to consider in your life. So I just wanted to, because what you said there was really powerful, I just wanted to offer my kind of my bit to that as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes these podcasts can be very, you should all quit your job and go and meditate.
No, I mean, like, look, we have, like, I'm nearly envious sometimes of those people.
Absolutely.
That, like, you know, they get a solid wage every month. They get great benefits. They don't have to worry about the revenue. You know, they don't have to
clear linear pathway to their life.
Yeah, it's great. And like somebody, geez, maybe I should have gone down that road. You know, like I'm 10 or 11 years now self-employed, and let me tell you something. It's a grind. It's a grind. It's a hustle. It's all that type of stuff. So like, there's great value. Not that I'm knocking on any of that. It's just like, again, it comes back to you, to the person. You know, is that serving you? Is that, and like the thing you said about the wellness programs, I had this discussion one time with the guy involved in kind of sport, and, you know, I was involved with some elite players, and I was talking about, you know, the strategies to recover quicker. And he said, yeah, but just so that you can get them out to the pitch sooner to get smashed, you know. Yeah. It's detrimental. It's not that you're looking out for their health. I mean, I understand that performance is about pushing to the absolute limit, and health is about balance, you know. But
sometimes, sorry to cut across you, sometimes from that athlete, there's an acknowledgement. I've played sport all my life. There's an acknowledgement at certain times in your sporting career that I'm going to sacrifice my health because I want this particular thing. And if that's what you want, we're all aligned here. The coach wants it. I want it. The physio wants it. Okay, well then we're all acknowledging this is maybe not the best thing to take a bunch of pain meds to strap my knee up before this final. But when am I going to get to play this final again? Never. So I'll run that risk. I'll run that risk. Same risk you take when you drink. Like, I know this is not optimal for me, but I'll decide to have a drink here now. The problem is when it's sub or not your conscious decision is maybe when it becomes a problem, like with drink or food or anything, all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I cut across you there.
No, that's good. I completely agree with that, you know.
Okay, so on the topic, I'm going to use the topic of shift work to segue into the thing that people will give out to me if I don't talk about because you're on the podcast. You put Tom on, all you asked them about was politics and the corporate world. Sleep, obviously. We'll talk a little bit about sleep, right? I think you know a thing or two about sleep. Your feelings on shift work go a little bit deeper than what you explained to me there. So maybe could you explain to me the effect that shift work, and maybe in the broader sense, the circadian rhythm links in there somewhere, but could you explain what that complex looked like there and why shift work is not great for the human body?
Well, essentially, it's down to sleep disruption.
Okay.
Right? It's not the actual shift work, to be technical about it. It's the complete misalignment and disruption of your circadian rhythm.
Yes.
That's the issue there. That's what causes major issue. Like, if we look at Russell Foster spoke about the only people who adapt to shift work completely, 3%. 3%.
I didn't even think there was any people who could actually adapt to it, but that's interesting.
And they're oil rig workers. And the only reason they adapt is because they're on site where they have huge halogen lights at night when they're working, feeds like the daytime. And then at night, they go into steel boxes with no windows and no light, complete blackout. And as long as environmental conditions, they can adapt.
Okay.
Right?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Your circadian rhythm or your body clock, it's not just your sleep. It governs every aspect of your physiology. Like, your gut bacteria have their own circadian rhythm. We know that every system in the body has a timer. We know that every single cell in your body has a timer. Imagine, every cell has a timer. So circadian rhythm runs deep, my friend, down to a cellular level. And, you know, that was only discovered in 2018 by 3 scientists who won the Nobel Prize for their discovery of this. So timing and how we live is huge. Like, you know, there are certain times where it's more beneficial to eat, to exercise, to rest, to get up, you know, do all these things. So shift workers, essentially what they do, most of them, is they're going against that. And they're flipping over and back between days, nights, late, early shifts. And they're not just flipping their sleep-wake pattern. They're kind of asking themselves, they're asking all of those systems to try and switch over and then switch back. It's not possible. You can only adjust your circadian rhythm by about 20 or 30 minutes per night. You can't shift it by 12 hours. twice and then flip back again and expect that there's not going to be any disruption. Like, we know that shift workers, it's a risk factor. It's classified as a class 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. We know that you're more likely to get cardiovascular disease, higher risk of stroke, higher risk of dementia, higher risk of type 2 diabetes, and the list goes on, right? Here's the thing. It's a risk factor. We have modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Now, I'll give you both sides. So that's the reality of it. That's what the data tells us. It is a risk factor. You never adapt, or 3% of you do, but you never really adapt. You never get used to it. Absolutely not. It actually gets more severe on the body and brain as we get older, right? But there are things you can do to counteract that. And like my brother-in-law, he was working he got a weekend job and he was working a night shift. And, there was one guy, he said, this guy, and he's like, he said he's way overweight. I said, he's 16, 18 stone. He's huge. Like, he's like, he loves his chips and his deep fried food and all that kind of stuff. And he eats a lot of that. And then he's outside smoking, like the lunch break, smoking all the time. And like, when he started, he said, I walked outside and this guy was there, like, smoking away, and he turns around to me and goes, that shift work will bloody kill you. It's the shift work that's the issue, So it is a modifiable risk factor. We want to counteract with health protective measures because we cannot just shut down society. Now, this is where like the road is very narrow for the shift worker. So they really have to try and look after their sleep and train themselves to fall back asleep and plan out their sleep cycles and do all that type of stuff. It's massively important for them, and use their days off to realign their body clock. And the fastest way to do that is through light. Getting light when we should be active. We are diurnal, not nocturnal. When we have light, we should be active. And you can train those systems that way. Watch the coffee intake. Your food times are important. As night shift workers, don't eat between 12 midnight and 6 a.m. Your body's cleaning itself up. So you keep your digestive system on a 9 to 5, even if you're working a shift, okay? That takes time to do. Learning how to wind down. All of these physical things we can try and help us to deal with that, and then exercise. Like the more, and I've got family who are shift workers, right? So they say to me, well, the more I'm kind of exercising, looking after my mental health, eating well, the less impact the shift has on me. Like we could do a full episode here on shift work, no problem, But for the shift workers and for us, understand the value of sleep and what it will bring into your life. Those currencies of time, energy, and presence I spoke about will go up if we're prioritizing. Our outlook on life will change. We embed positive emotional experiences while we sleep. We clean our brains while we sleep, lymphatic drainage. We regulate the immune response. We build muscle. Our hormones are regulated. There's so much that goes on, but we undervalue it. We have allowed our own human nature to consume cheap dopamine and waste our time on social media when we should be prioritizing our sleep. So, I think it has a profound impact on health and well-being, and it's part of. And look, no one gets it right all the time either. That's really important to say. Like, generally my sleep is good. Sometimes I don't have great sleep, and I know why, and obviously I know why or whatever.
Is that something people always say, oh God, you must get great sleep now, Tom?
Well, generally I do. Like, generally my sleep is grand, but like I joke, 'cause my son was born and then I was walking around the room at 4 o'clock in the morning going, you should be asleep, I'm a sleep expert. And he laughing away at me, like, And sometimes like my head might take off, something might happen, something emotional. So I'm human, like, but at least I know how to fix it. I know what the problem is, and I know how to fix it.
Yeah. Well, whether you do that, another different question.
Yeah, exactly.
So most people probably listen to this podcast have either listened to a podcast of Matthew Walker or read his book or something like that. So there's a lot of information out there, like general health information, but about sleep specifically. In your experience, what are the biggest things that we are not getting right? What are we misunderstanding or misinterpreting? Because all the information's there, but what are the average people? What are we kind of missing? We're missing some points here.
See, like, here's the thing. Oh, you've said it there now. So there's so much information out there now on health.
Yeah.
Right. If you ask anyone that listens to this podcast, what do you have to do to be healthier? They'll tell you. They know.
Yeah.
Eat better food, stop doing this, stop doing that, stop smoking, don't drink as much, connection, less screen time. So the problem isn't like what to do.
Yeah.
The problem isn't like here's the healthy version I want to be, and like here's my old. It's kind of, it's navigating that. We know what we should be doing. We don't know how to do it. We don't know how to break habits. Like that's a huge part of it for me. We don't know how to break habits. So we have to learn kind of how we can break habits first off and start to, shift things over or move things towards that new sense, that new kind of reality that we want to live in.
Okay. Well, let me rephrase my question then. Because we should all, we sleep, we're animals, we should all sleep. So we know how to sleep, I suppose. But what are the habits then that you see that people struggle with that are preventing that good sleep?
The wind down.
The wind down.
It's like, and I'm not talking about like half an hour before you go to bed. Like as social creatures, we're the only primate group who don't just hang out in groups together, grooming each other and chilling out in the evening time.
And when it gets dark, we go to bed, yeah.
And then when it gets dark, we make the bed and fall asleep. We're the only primate group who isolate ourselves and shine big bright lights in our eyes and stuff like that. Like so the mental wind down I'm talking about here.
Okay.
That mental wind down should be starting in evening time. It doesn't happen in half an hour or 10 minutes or whatever, or even an hour. So we just need to start chill. Like uncontrolled stress. So like the biggest thing I say to people is learn how to wind yourself down. And I say set the reverse snooze button on your phone to tell you to get off the phone, to remind you to chill out and wind down. That's the first thing. Like move more during the day. Mm-hmm. Like people who come to me with sleep issues, I often sometimes say to them, why don't you come up to Mayo, where I'm from, come up to the garden here, and we'll go outside when it gets bright in the morning. We dig the garden all day. We'll only come in for food. And when it gets dark, then come in, have a nice hot shower and have a big meal, and we'll see how the sleep is then.
Yeah.
Those days when you do something like that, or you jump into this, you spend an hour in the sea splashing around like that night, you have no issue sleeping.
Yeah.
So we have to learn to turn this thing off. Turn the head off.
Yeah.
Unwind, turn the head off. And the sleep will come. In most cases, the sleep will come. It's about like moving the obstacles out of the way that we've placed.
It's so powerful. I remember laughing once when I was listening to a conversation around ADHD and obesity in children. And I remember this guy listening to this woman explaining all the rates of ADHD and ADD have gone up and the rates of obesity of children once they hit 4 years of age go up. And the man just sat there and he listened. And she goes, what can we do about all this? And he's like, what was the age again that all these rates go up? And she said, around 4. He's like, what age do we put children in a room and sit them on their asses for 6 hours a day and get them to do nothing all day? When is that about? And she's like, yeah, probably about the same time. It's like we're self-inflicting a lot of this stuff with a massive increase in ADHD because you're asking Johnny to sit there and do nothing and try and just use his head for 6 hours.
Oh my God.
And you've stopped him from moving. And if he moves, he's punished and he's not allowed to run in the yard anymore and he's not allowed to climb anymore. And he was like, what the fuck do you think is going on? I was like, this is exactly what we need.
Gold.
We have put this obstacle in our way, not because we're evil.
No.
This is the way we think we need to teach children, but we've removed such an important element. Movement.
Yeah. Movement. It's like people overthink it. Like you've heard me say it now 2 or 3 times. Get out there and move your body and use.
But that's too easy, Tom. That can't be the solution. There has to be melatonin.
It'll take the melatonin. Resets your pineal gland.
I have Huberman's. I like Huberman, by the way, but I have his sleep cocktail here. And I was going through it. I don't even understand half the stuff. Magnesium, threonate, L-theanine, apigenin, Maya. I was like, that's all great, but he's probably doing everything else right as well. He's moving, he's managing his light exposure, he's doing all the right things. Yeah. And that's the extra bit.
That's it. People look for, what's the tablet? What can I take?
Yeah. So I'm spending €50, Tom, now on my sleep cocktail, but I still can't sleep. But I'm sitting on my ass for 14 hours a day and watching Netflix for 3 hours before I go to bed. And I've had a can of Monster actually at 9 o'clock before I went to the gym and then came home.
Yes.
But I have the sleep cocktail, so why is it not working?
Well, yeah, it's not working for me. Yeah. Can't switch off. There's no like off switch in the back of your head here. Back of your body, you can just switch off.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the society we live in. And what you said about the children is so accurate. The word I use for my beautiful son is relentless. He is up in the morning. Good morning, Daddy. It's morning time. And all he wants to do is like wrestle and fight and go outside. Daddy want to go chopping wood. Daddy want to go fishing. Daddy want to do this. Daddy want go. I kind of flip that with people and say, well, if you got 12 hours sleep a night, maybe you might have that level of energy.
Yeah,
you know. But we mess things up, man. We shove things in our way, and we mess ourselves up, and then it's disrupted.
You mentioned hours there. That's an interesting one. I didn't actually have on my list here. It's just popped into my head. There's a conversation at the moment around this 8-hour window. I know what's the window? 8 to 10 or 7 to 9?
7 to 8 hours generally.
7 to 8 hours generally. And now some people are saying you always get counter narrative to whatever the narrative is, but some people are saying that's not necessarily true. What's your take on the amount of sleep?
It is personal. We have 9 different clock genes which might determine
9.
Yeah, 9 different genes which have an influence over our sleep. You know, whether it be chronotype or preference or requirement or how deep we sleep, etc. Right. Okay. So it is personal. Some people are fine on 6 hours. That's 4 90-minute cycles, or
that's where the key is.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 90-minute cycles is 7.5 hours. 6 90-minute cycles is 9 hours.
Okay.
So it is dependent on you and what's going on in your life. Sometimes you mentioned you've a child on the way.
I have a new baby and 2 other children. So 5 or 2 and a brand new. Yeah.
Okay. Good luck to you, my friend.
Yeah. Have to give a nod to Jill here. She's breastfeeding, so I do get away with murder. But
yeah. So there we go. Your sleep is going to be disrupted. Sleep is life happens. Kids, trauma, stress. Like we can survive off. Optimally, we need this amount. But what's just as important in determining your overall sleep quality, sleep regularity, going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time, that nearly has the same amount of impact as the importance of getting like 6 or 7.5. I don't want people to stress out if they're not getting 7.5 and say, he said 7.5 to get 7.5. No, maybe you're fine on 6. You kind of know. And how you know? The next day you're within 30 minutes of waking up, you're relatively okay and you're operational and you're not getting daytime sleepiness and feeling fatigued throughout the day. There are natural dips in energy. Here's another thing for culturally, right? Everyone says to me, how do you beat the afternoon slump? How do you beat it? Why don't you just roll with it, man? It's very easy.
Finish work at 3, man. Yeah, who gives a fuck?
And I don't mean that. Like for those people who work 9 to 5 jobs, do an important task that needs doing that's not hugely cognitive demanding on you. When you sleep in 90-minute cycles, the ultradian cycles, they continue in the brain during the day. So to be hyper-productive, you should be working in 90-minute cycles. Anders Ericsson, a researcher, found that the most successful musicians, chess grandmasters and mathematicians all trained in bouts of 90 minutes without knowing anything about ultradian cycles.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. They all trained in bouts of 90 minutes and then had a 15-minute cognitive break. So you can do those cycles with work. You will be far more productive. So don't be afraid. Like, you're going to get through the dip. We all have dips in the day, and that's part of your body. It's part of physiology. Don't try and fight it, man. Like, there's no organism on earth that puts their foot in the accelerator and just keeps it there.
For 8 to 10 hours a day, every single day.
Look, as busy as a bee. Like a bee sleeps. I researched this because I okay, let's see how busy the bee actually is.
I love that.
This is where my mind is, right? So bees sleep. Bees work for 6 hours and they sleep for more, Yeah. So go on Google how much work a bee does, and you'll find actually a bee doesn't work 24 hours. A bee actually does sleep as well, and they have a much shorter lifespan and stuff like that. Like any organism, you know what I mean? So that's why burnout is on the increase. That's why we're not able to cope. That's why we're falling off a cliff. That's why we're consuming junk food. That's why we're trying to escape using social media. It's not like there's symptoms of a bigger problem.
I think it's a great point. I suppose to look at how most of us live our lives, if we can acknowledge that this is a structure that's been, I suppose, maybe imposed or enforced by society and culture, as opposed to a process that's been, it's an organic process for our body. If we can look at our 9 to 5, for example, it's a great example there. And to be fair, a lot of jobs are now starting to do this. There's flexi time and you can kind of work on, and it's project-based and stuff like that, because we're starting to realize that just by having me, I'm a great example of this. You put me in front of a computer for 8 hours, you're probably getting 2 hours of work out of me. Yeah. But you give me a project to do, and I'll probably work at the times that I feel most.
Yeah.
Now within limits, I don't do everything on a Friday and nothing Monday to Thursday, but you'll find the rhythm that suits you best.
Yes.
And then a nuance I throw into that, because it's never simple, is if if your other health metrics are off, if you're not eating well and you're eating sugary foods and you've insulin spikes and your cortisol's off because your sleep is off, and maybe those periods where you're fatigued aren't your actual periods. So maybe what you need to do is step back and look at the overall picture of how am I living my life? What's my health like? What's my nutrition like? What's my movement like? What's my sleep like? And then look at okay, what's my job like? I can't change the job.
Yeah.
So how can I use the other tools? Like the shift worker, I can't change my sleep patterns, but how can I use the other tools to support that rather than I just have to force my way through this process now. I need my 6 coffees to get through the day. If you need, who is it? Hormozy. It is an interesting one because Hormozy's name down here, right? But we're gonna have an interesting conversation about him. If I need to hack my way through the day, that's a problem. Straight away, it's a problem. And he would say about caffeine, if this has stopped, if it's now something I depend on, it has stopped conferring a benefit. It's now a dependency. So caffeine is no longer an ergogenic aid. I'm a big fan of caffeine. 2 or 3 times a week. I had a cup of coffee this morning because I knew I was doing this podcast. I won't have another one again for 2 days because it affects my sleep, which affects my performance. If I start to depend on coffee, it's no longer a performance aid. Yeah, it's now a band-aid. So I like that idea. So, but it requires that little bit of awareness, self-awareness, because if I'm tired and I've got 3 kids and I'm doing my 9 to 5, my boss is on my back and I'm bollocks and I have to get this project done, man, I'm just going to have a cup of coffee here. Yeah. And that just rolls into 2 cups a day, 3 cups a day, 5 cups a day, 10, whatever it is. Yeah. So it's insidious. Yeah. But just that ability to step back a little bit, or what most people can't do is step back a little bit to talk to someone like you who can maybe give a bit of perspective on this and help me with my lifestyle design. Yeah. I think it's very, very
and like, here's the thing that people maybe don't, because I experienced this in the early days of nutrition, right? Where people think I'm like the perfect, no, like I'm.
Hold on, what?
Hold
on, this is an exclusive.
Am I not perfect? The paradigm of whatever. The paragon of good health. Yeah, more like the paradigm. Basically, I'm a highly addictive type of guy. I find something that feels good, I'll do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Like, why would you not? I mean, why would you not? It feels good. So like, I've had to overcome these issues myself and everything. Like caffeine, like I've been through the ringer with caffeine itself. Like I've done every type of stuff. I formulated drinks for athletes.
Really?
Yeah. Back in the early days, I used to make these drinks for these athletes and I got pure caffeine. And like it was bananas because you got this tiny little scale and this big bag of white powder, and here I was measuring this stuff out, like, But you had to get the dose right because you could kill someone. You can kill someone with too much caffeine, and it was 0.2 grams. I was putting in the drink, something like this. So I can't remember. I think it was 0.2 grams. Yeah. Like if you get a 0 wrong there,
that's what I think the story was. Your man, I think he was dealing in grams when it should have been milligrams. Yeah. And he killed himself.
Yeah. So like I had to be careful. So yeah, and I love coffee. I love coffee. I get my single origin coffee. Lovely. All this kind of stuff.
Sorry, we get an espresso today. You must be raging.
No, that's nuts for me now. So, but actually, I've gone off coffee, not for a taste perspective, but what it does to my stomach. Okay. And I've shifted over into yerba mate tea.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of benefits to yerba mate. And there's a ritual involved as well, which I love rituals, right? So I've gone like Messi and all those guys, and I didn't bring it today. It's too much like you need a flask and you need whatever, the bombilla and this, all that kind of stuff. So I've shifted over to yerba mate, and it's lovely.
Really,
I get my caffeine,
and
it's not like a hyper energetic, buzzy kind of feeling. It's like very mellow. It has L-theanine in it. So L-theanine calms everything down as well. Yeah. So like, I mean, all of these things have an impact on our mental health, on the health of our brain, on our sleep, all of these things. And like, for people out there, like, where are you at? And just make a step to improve. And if you're failing in any area of life, lower the bar.
Okay.
Lower the bar. Whatever area you want to improve, nutrition, exercise, mindset, sleep. Nobody does it through huge jumps. Okay? It's usually, it's those small, but like, again, people undervalue it. They go, oh, he's like, give us the magic bullet. I had it in nutrition all the time. What's the magic bullet? The magic bullet is consistency, is doing the small things well over time. Look at performance. What is it about? Doing the small things well over time. Look at a lot of the pro athletes I worked with, their OCD, they do the small things well over time. They use the systems. Yeah. So for all of us, no matter where we are, we can improve our health. and we can make those small changes. But here's the problem. We can talk about the comfort zone. I mean, the beta paradox, the region beta paradox.
Yes, I love it, man. Go and hit the people with the region beta paradox.
I'll use a story.
Yeah.
There's a dog sitting in front of the fire and he loves it. It's like the best spot, man. You know, he's sitting in front of the fire. Every now and again he moves and he kind of yelps in pain. And this guy was looking at him going, what's that? Poor dog is in pain. So he said to the owner, what's the story with the dog? Like, he seems to be in pain there. She said, no. There's a nail in the floorboard digging up. And every now and again, it just gives him a little nip in the ass and it just hurts him. So, but he won't move from that spot because that's the most comfortable spot in front of the fire.
Yeah.
That's the region beta paradox, man. People complain about their life or talk about this and it's not. If it was really bad,
they change it.
You quit your job, you'd move out. But it's just about bearable. Like that's a scary place to be, you know, in that mediocrity. That's
in the grey.
In the grey, where it's like, it's good, it's shit sometimes, like kind of, and you don't like. That's kind of long term. It's like death in slow motion to your spirit, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna do two things here. I'm not gonna keep it too much longer now, but I'm gonna use that story and the region beta paradox to segue to my final topic I want to talk to you about. Before I do, this is pure clickbait for the podcast because people are going to be saying, give us the Tom Coleman sleep stack.
Okay.
If the low-hanging fruit, and it depends, I'm going to give that answer straight away. It depends on you and your unique situation. But the go-to for people when it comes to looking at my sleep and what are the low-hanging fruit that are there for all of us to look at. Maybe some people are doing some of them well.
Yeah.
Probably most people aren't. What's your go-to when you're looking at a general sleep stack? So I'm not talking about supplements. I would put supplements probably at the end of the stack. But
we even leave supplements out of it. You've actually named the ones that work.
Okay, magnesium, L-theanine.
Yeah. Apigenin.
Yeah.
So like my stack is morning light.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sets the timer.
Yeah.
It clicks everything off. I know I'm going to sleep fantastic tonight for many reasons, but one of the main reasons, it's the most powerful Zeitgeber or time giver or lever. Light. Get outside. That doesn't cost you anything.
Can I throw your wrench in your works here now? If you wake up at like whatever now between 6 and 7 now it's dark. What do we do?
Lumni are a company I know, and they do a range of SAD lamps. Okay. They emit 5 to 10,000 lux, which is the measurement of light. That is the next best thing. So check those guys out. I'm actually doing a competition on my Instagram page in a couple of weeks for a Lumni SAD light.
Love it.
So you can check that out. That's the next best thing. So light, number one. Number two, just do some form of exercise during the day, right? Eye mask. I talk about low light and fruit, right? It's called an eye mask, not a blindfold. Don't go into the chemist looking for a blindfold. And that you'll be shocked at how well the impact that will have on your sleep. Okay, the unwind. Just do like a 10-minute, physical lie in the bed, let go of tension in my shoulders, feel my shoulders, let go of tension. Do that, like get off the phone, right? And maybe think about either hot or cold therapy.
Okay.
All right. Because I find that if you're all over the place, go and jump in the sea. It's a great reset, man.
Yeah.
It's a great reset, right? If you do the cold stuff, try and do it earlier in the day.
I was just going to say, don't jump in the ice bath and then jump into the bed.
No, it won't work.
Yeah.
The other way around will work.
Yes.
Do a sauna and then go to bed.
Yes.
Sauna causes a rebound cooling effect. That will help you sleep.
Okay.
But that's the low line stuff.
Yeah.
So the light, the exercise, switch off the coffee, man. Switch off, after 2:00. You asked me, do I want a coffee? I said, hold on, what time is it?
Because I know. Test, by the way, you check the watch.
I know.
I'm
sensitive to it.
Yeah.
No, I used to be a guy who could drink 6-7 cups of coffee a day, no bother.
Really?
Yeah.
I was never that.
And I was that guy, and I could fall asleep. But as I've aged and everything else, and as my knowledge has grown now, I'm I think that's the first coffee I've had now in a few days.
Okay, yeah.
God help whoever's sitting beside me in the train on the way back.
Talking the ear off.
Talking the ear off.
Oh, that's Tom Coleman. Your man sounds is asleep because he talks so much on the train. You mentioned the relaxing the shoulders there. That's the military body scan, is it?
The body scan, yeah. Go from head to toe. Like the military body scan, the military have invested heavily. I've been privy to documents from Walter Reed Institute
Wow.
And it's,
Holy
I
shit,
could tell
that's
you,
cool.
oh, that's cool. It is cool. Like the protocol for soldiers.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And the technologies that they're developing.
Are they that far ahead of us all?
Oh, they are.
Yeah, I need to.
You'll be looking at your watch hitting the button soon and falling asleep.
Yeah.
Like that's the level they're trying to get to.
That's cool.
Sleep is a weapon.
Yeah.
That's on one of the pieces of
sleep is a weapon. Wow.
Yeah, sleep is a weapon. Sleep is ammunition. Sleep is the difference between winning and losing. It's like all this stuff from their general, from one of the generals. Like they've invested millions into sleep. So they developed a body scan. They report a 98% success rate after 6 weeks, not one go. Right, before you go, oh, try that, didn't work. So the body scan, letting go of tension, just like it's that habit. And again, the cognitive stuff, it's like I said, you wouldn't go to the gym once and say that didn't work. You have to do it night after night for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But whatever your mind tells you, and it will work. It 98% will work.
Yeah, 90% of the time, every time. And I can actually vouch for that because I did. I don't really do it at the moment anymore. I don't really struggle falling asleep. But there's a period of time where I did it, and I was like, at the start, I was like, what's the 4 or 5 days in?
Yeah.
It was actually really starting to help me just completely switch off. If people aren't familiar with it, you can YouTube it, Google it. There's lots of information out there, but the military body scan, very, very helpful. And like everything you described there will be a lot of people screaming because a lot of people listening to this are very into their medicine or biohacking or health or fitness or performance, whatever. They'd be screaming at it saying, but what about their cortisol levels and get bloods and all that kind of stuff? I asked Tom for the low hanging fruit that we can all have a look at.
Yeah.
And in my experience, 90% of people have none of those sorted. So rather than jumping straight to let's go to the extreme end of the medical investigation here, start with the easy stuff, see how you get on, see if it works for you, see if you're having a better sleep, see if you're feeling better, and then you can progress it if you have serious issues with sleep. I suppose that's probably the best way. And to go back to my segue earlier on, I can't actually remember what you said to bring me the segue. We were talking about the region beta paradox.
That's right.
We've mentioned several times in this conversation burnout. I mentioned Alex Hormozi. There is with every culture, there's a counterculture. The counterculture to 9 to 5 is hustle culture. And go get your hustle done. Start your side project. Leave your job. Quit your job. Take over the world. Go. Hustle. Optimize. I love Alex Hormozi. Are you familiar with Hormozi?
I'm not with the name, but if I've seen the face, I
you'd know his face. Bearded guy, lumberjack shirt, wears a cap, talks about financial advice all the time. Business guy, has a company, acquisition.com. This is not an ad for Alex Hormozi. I don't even know the guy. I'm a business owner. I like his stuff because it helps me run my business. However, there's something about Alex Hormozi that he will admit is completely different in that his game is money. He loves it. It's his goal. And he has all the other areas of his life the way he wants them. He's doing very, very well. And he helps me with part of my business.
Yeah.
However, people like that are not the people that we should be setting our radar on. Burnout, in my experience, comes from looking at something like that. Or even in your 9 to 5 job, saying, I have to get the promotion in the next thing. It's the extreme end of everything, in my experience, that can lead to that burnout without the balance that we spoke about at the start. So I think everything that we have spoken about today, it can easily be interpreted as, well, take complete control and then optimize the absolute hell out of your life. But that's a trap as well.
That's a trap as well. That's I don't know what you call it, like a false, dawn or whatever you want to say. I don't know. It's not grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Like I can nearly tell you like a lot of the stuff, but it's like, is it achievable? Where's the joy?
Yeah, but it's achievable for a small percentage of the population. It's like elite athletics.
Yeah,
the people that we see on these platforms are the elite, and we're seeing them because they're the elite.
Yeah,
but in most of those cases, there's many other areas of their lives that might not be important to them, but that could be important to you or me, that they're not optimizing for it. They're optimizing for this one metric.
Correct, yeah.
And Hormozi and he openly speaks about this. There's another man I'm going to mention in a minute. You're going to smile. He openly speaks about this. I'm optimizing for financial success because this is my game and I love it and this is what I do. And he likes training and he likes eating dessert and that's his thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a family and maybe he wants a family, whatever. But if I look at him, if that's where I'm setting my dial in terms of how I sleep, how I eat, how I train it, I am going to be so far off what's actually important for me.
Yeah.
The other man, and James told me I had to mention this man's name, and we don't have another 3 hours, so is David Goggins.
Oh, yeah.
You're a big Goggins fan.
I am. I'm a Goggins fan. I'm a Goggins fan because he cuts through the bullshit.
Okay.
He cuts through the bullshit of excuses. And like the first mention of Goggins to anyone and they go, oh, he's a lunatic.
Yeah.
And like I know he hates that. Like he's verbal about that, to say, I'm not some superhuman. I am not off my head. I am basically a fat, lazy so-and-so. I've become obese twice. Not once, like I got it down to this twice. So I'm not like superhuman. But through pain, ultimately, he had enough. So there's a great line from a guy called Khalil Gibran, a book called The Prophet, and he says, pain is the breaking of the shell of understanding. You know? So obviously Goggins went deep in the suffering and the pain. The first noble truth of Buddhism, again back to spirituality, is that life is suffering. You know this. You suffer through avoiding what you should be doing, or you suffer in doing what you should be doing, and whatever. Right? Yeah. We don't like the pain, the discomfort. Right?
Choose your suffering.
Choose your suffering. So I'm a fan of Goggins for that. I got to meet him in person and chat to him briefly, and I got to square off with him, which was frightening, which was brilliant. I loved it. He was a gentleman, a very humble man, a very kind man, a man that, like, he stood after doing a talk, after spending, I don't know how many hours signing books, then he done his talk for 2 hours, and then he stood for hours and hours and hours and hours, and he gave everyone presence and attention and kindness, and talked to them. And it was an amazing experience. You don't see that in the clips on YouTube or whatever, you know. But like, I know from the people that were there, some of the people that were there at the talk, that man has saved lives. Like, I know he has. He has saved people's lives, literally, you know, because he shared his vulnerability, and he somehow got through, and then his mission now is to do that. So you can like him or not like him, or agree with him or disagree with him, but I love him. I think you know, I think he really helps people. And if you want to, you know, break through the bullshit, Goggins is your only man.
Yeah.
So get out there and into action.
I suppose that's the tie-in between the burnout word, the hustle culture word, and the region beta paradox that we spoke about. Is that if you were to look at Goggins and try and do what Goggins does and ignore the why behind what he does, and the compassion and the love and what he's trying to help, and if you were just trying to do what he does, that's a great way to burn yourself out. If you're just trying to do what Hormozy does, or all these different people do, it's a great way to burn yourself out. If you're just trying to get the best performance in every single element of your life, just to have the best performance, it's a great way to burn yourself out. However, we are so privileged to be able to have these people to meet, to speak. Like, I'm privileged to have you here today to learn from, to discuss from. And if we combine that knowledge, expertise, experience with our own, as we said at the start, our own metric for what success is, and we can plug those bits in, because I'm a fan of Goggins from the perspective of someone who takes what he needs when he needs it from Goggins.
Brilliant.
Every now and again, there's a moment where I'm doing, usually training or something like that, or playing a game, or doing something particularly difficult, where I love who's going to carry the boats. But there's an element of Goggins that I draw on there that's hard. It's hardcore, and I'm like, stop being such a little bitch and just get this done. Yeah. But that's not how I live my life.
Yeah.
So I don't look at Goggins and going, oh God, I would never live my life that way. I say, fair play to him. He's an amazing, inspirational character. And some people hate him, but the reason they hate him is that they think they have to consume this thing as a whole and apply it directly to their life.
No, and I agree with you. I think that it's like, is it serving me? Will it make the boat go faster, like Redgrave said, or whatever? I will extract pieces, because I can't, like, ultimately, I could probably go out physically and do the stuff. Like, I'd actually wouldn't mind that level of suffering.
Yeah.
The stuff that I struggle with is the monotony of the paperwork, of doing the normal stuff or whatever. That's my challenge.
Yeah.
Like, the physical stuff, I can do it. I've done physical demanding stuff before, but I extract what I need from Goggins. I extract what I need from like amazing people like Andrew Huberman or whatever, or Matthew Walker, and those people that I, you know, will, like, when it comes to sleep, they are, but they have their flaws, and they have their things that I don't like and I don't agree with as well.
Yeah.
Not to say that I'm right or right like this, but look, it's people have to find, like, your tapestry of success will look different to my tapestry of success.
Yeah. And
you have to find what will help you on that journey. And it's not to say, because when I was discovering the world at 19 in London or whatever, I just, you know, I read a book. I discovered acupuncture. You think, oh, this is it. This is the thing. This is it. You know, and you learn later it's not. There are threads of truth that run through all of these things in life. and you have to find what is serving you, as painful as it might be, what will enable change to a higher sort of state that might become a trait in your life that you desire, and that ultimately you and the relationships and the people you love and everyone will benefit. And that's the way I see it.
Here, Mr. Coleman. Before you leave us, are you going to continue on this path doing what you're doing, or do you have designs to grow, to expand, to change what you're doing, to move into different arenas?
I am starting a podcast.
Yep, let's do it.
Get it out there for the people. I've had so much fun today on this one because it's been so different. Like, I've done a lot of podcasts. I am continuing in sleep, but part of like my podcast is kind of casting my health science eye on everything, on the fads, on the things that work, on the things that don't work, and that's part of what I'd like to broaden out. I love speaking. I love meeting people. I love engaging with people. I love that speaking element of my job. I love working with high level people as well. So I continue doing that. I do work with people. If people do need help with sleep, I will try and help you in whatever way I can. I do have a sleep course dedicated to not fixing, but managing and organising and sorting out your sleep issue for you.
Where can we find the course?
TomColeman.ie website or Instagram, TomColeman.ie. Reach out to me if you do need help. But like, I am very excited about the future, about about life, and about just navigating that, and the imperfections. It's part of the journey, isn't it? And that's why I love coming up here and doing work like this, and people drilling into my head. Like, it's great.
Yeah, well, look, I really enjoyed today. I've enjoyed meeting you. You're part of the network now, part of the family. You're already in with James in the back there as well. So thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for your input and your expertise. And we'll be watching the journey.
Brilliant. My pleasure.
And we look forward. When's the podcast out, actually?
I'm going to launch in that time of year when people do their resolutions, their New Year's resolutions. Yeah, I'm going to launch in January, please God. So yeah, a lot of it will be sleep related, but I'm going to tie in so much with other things as well. So I'm excited about that.
Lovely. Well, we'll be following along. Tom Coleman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And shout out to James. Thank you for
Thanks, James.
your grind today.
Yeah.